Lord Akatosh lends you his might. When your own strength fails you, trust in the Nine. Hey, what's going on, peeps? My name is Rex and we're back with some more Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Today we're gonna make a trip to Ivarstead. We want to get... oh, we have to level up as well. But we have to get all the way to Ivarstead, which is over here. We're gonna have to traverse... I guess you can see the road. It's a little bit awkward here because this is a little hike. It's actually a little mountain we're gonna have to hike over here to get across and finally get to Ivarstead. At some point I also want to take this little path over here that you can see. It's kind of an interesting path that I don't think I've ever taken that path before. That's why I like the roads on the map, the mod, because it allows you to see those small little things. But yeah, there is a dungeon here that we want to do. I think it's called Hillsgrumb Tomb or Hillsgrumb. It's one of my favorite dungeons for the beginning of the game. It's kind of difficult. We're gonna fight a necromancer and he's gonna have a lot of summons, but it's a nice place nonetheless. Anyways, today's topic is going to be Dragonborns because I had this question asked a couple of videos ago and I thought it was interesting enough to have a full video on this, at least as far as the Let's Play, the LorePlay is concerned. It's really, it's just a topic that is just written with misconceptions just all together. Because a lot of people wonder, you know, why some Dragonborns don't really shout. Why, especially in Oblivion, because you play Oblivion, in the very beginning you see Uriel Septim, who is supposed to be a Dragonborn. He's obviously carrying the Amulet of Kings, and we know for a fact that the Amulet of Kings can only be used by Dragonborns. And if a non-Dragonborn were to use the Amulet of Kings, the amulet would of course just slip through the wielder's neck. It's supposed to be used only by Dragonborns. Should we use Summoner? Nah, I think I'm gonna go a little bit melee first before I start doing that. Let's go ahead and get some points in one-handed, I suppose. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So Uriel Septim was actually a Dragonborn, but of course in the beginning of the game you see him getting destroyed by the Mythic Dawn. Really just basic level enemies, and we know from the stories and obviously from Skyrim that Dragonborn are supposed to be mighty warriors blessed by Akatosh that can wield the Thuum like a normal person wields their hands. Persons of great prowess, mighty warriors. In fact, every single person in the world that has ever shouted has gone on to become legendary in this world. Yet you see a lot of Dragonborns, especially those that are associated with the throne of Cyrodiil, are just quite not that. So a lot of people were wondering what the hell is up with that. And that comes up as one of the biggest misconceptions with Elder Scrolls. And the misconception is that Dragonborn doesn't translate directly into Dovahkiin, but Dovahkiin translates into Dragonborn, and that's the biggest, I would say, confusing little bit. You see, if you want to say Dragonborn in Dovahs, it actually translates into Dovahkiin, not Dovahkiin. Dovahkiin translates directly into Dragon Hunter-born, and that's the key aspect, right? Dragon Hunter-born, it almost entails that you were designed from the get-go to kill dragons, whereas a Dragonborn really merely suggests that you have the blood of dragons, and we'll get to that in a bit. Let's just go ahead and talk to the descendant of whoever this tomb is.
Ah! Oh, Kiin, you startled me. There's a necromancer around here, so watch yourself. Can you help me? He's in the tomb doing gods know what with my dead relatives. Val's Varen. My family has never really seen eye to eye with him, and he has finally gone off the deep end. He's gone in to defile our family tomb by using our ancestors for his filthy dark elf necromancy. My aunt went in after him, but she hasn't come out yet. and I don't think I can take him by myself. Great. I'll unlock the door and meet you inside. Then you can lead the way.
So this is the tomb of his family, and a dark elf necromancer is desecrating it by resurrecting his family members. And yeah, we'll go ahead and help him in just a bit, but... yeah, what it comes down to is that Dragonborn it's not the same as being a Dovahkiin, and Dovahkiin is not the same as being a Dragonborn, although if you are Dovahkiin, then you are a Dragonborn. You see, the key difference is really the fact that it's a misnomer, right? Like, a person that has been blessed by Akatosh, especially those that are descendant of Saint Alessia. So Saint Alessia was the first one. The first ones of those sort of people that are called Dragonborn, but are not actually Dragonkin. The reason for that is, so I guess I should probably just get into a little bit of history here. Who the hell is Saint Alessia? Saint Alessia was... this is back when the Eyelids used to rule Cyrodiil, and the Needs, or the Nedes, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, but this very early group of humans were pretty much being enslaved by the elves in Cyrodiil. She was a slave herself, but she managed to pretty much just join all the slaves together, form an army of slaves, and fight the elves back, and pretty much... she was the reason why Cyrodiil is human lands, I guess is what I'm getting at. She liberated Cyrodiil from the elves. And she was so big, in fact, that she became a saint. Just that's why she's called Saint Alessia. She had other names, but Saint Alessia was the one that stuck. Let's go ahead and kill this guy real quick. Oh boy, it's pretty bad. Oh, well, I guess I'm doomed. Teammates, man, they can be really helpful, but sometimes they just betray you. I think there's anything else here. It can be very difficult to talk about lore. We're also playing on this difficulty. Can't really just mindlessly go in, you know what I'm saying? But she was actually Saint Alessia. She was the one that actually created the 8 divines. Before her, the Nords believed in their own pantheon. We have already talked about the Nordic pantheon with Shor and Soon and, you know, the whale gods and the eagle gods and all of that stuff. And then the elves believed in Auriel, and we know, you know, Malekuth, and it's what she did is she combined both pantheons into one, and then she called it the 8 divines. And she made it so that she combined both Elvish stuff and Nordic stuff so that it would be more valid. Because imagine a human person would just come out and say like, alright, well, this is what everyone should believe in. Obviously the elves would have been like, hey, what the hell, man? We don't believe in that shit. And
so long as you help me get rid of Vals,
it would have been easily denied. But she added both elf and human gods so that everyone would be like, alright, I guess that's okay. And it kind of worked out. Everyone started believing in the 8 divines, which was very nice. But my point is, when she did so much good stuff, she was awesome, but when she was about to die, Akatosh actually offered her not really divinity as much as she was offered the blood of Akatosh so that she could protect the realm of Nirn from Oblivion. Akatosh came in and said, hey, I'm gonna give you my blood, and from now on your descendants are going to be Dragonborn. They're gonna be called Dragonborn, and as long as your descendants rule over Cyrodiil, then the realm of Nirn is gonna be clear of Daedrus. And that's where the legends come from. That's why they're being called Dragonborn. It's really just a blessing of Akatosh. They don't really have the blood of dragons. They can't really shout. They can't do anything that a Dragonborn, that an actual Dovahkiin can do. But all they really have is just, you know, a blessing, if you so will. It's really just like a political name, if you want to call it that. But they have no power. Now, some of them did have some power. You know, there's been Dragonborn. Whoa. Okay. They've been a Dragonborn that have been born out of that lineage that are actual Dovahkiins, but not all of them were. And I I guess this comes into another question that I've been asked in some of the other videos. How many Dragonborns have there actually been? And we'll come back to our last topic, the differences between Dovahkiin and Dragonborn, but as far as that question is concerned, how many Dragonborns have there actually been? It's been a few. It's really hard to tell because, I mean, you can only really tell a Dragonborn, a real Dovahkiin, when obviously there's dragons present, when you actually get to absorb a dragon soul, or when you get to see words of power, which is why usually is easily found in Skyrim, where dragons actually live, because imagine it would be a lot easier to find words of power in Skyrim than anywhere else. But you don't necessarily have to be a Nord. That's another misconception. You don't have to be a Nord for you to be a Dragonborn. It's, in fact, a lot of stories. Well, there's people. Some stories say that Talos wasn't actually a Nord; that he was in fact a Breton or an Imperial. Obviously, you can tell by the fact that his descendants, the entire Septim line, are actually Imperials and not Bretons, right, or Nords. That's how you can tell. But yeah, you don't have to be a Nord to be a Dragonborn. But it would be easier to figure out that you're a Dragonborn, since it's easier to find dragons and words of power in Skyrim than anywhere else. So it would make the most sense for most of them to be Nords. But regardless, obviously we know that the first Dragonborn was MrRhexx. He even calls himself the first Dragonborn. He was alive in the Merethic era. He was an ally of the dragons, but later on betrayed them, tried to fight them, lost against the dragons, and ended up hiding in the realm of Apocrypha, Hermaios' Mora's Oblivion realm, so that the dragons wouldn't find him and kill him. We know that Remen Cyrodiil was a Dragonborn. He was the one that defended against the invasion of Akavir. The Dragon Guard of Akavir invaded Skyrim, invaded Tamriel. And he fought back against them. He shouted at them, and the Akavirs, who have always been known as the fighters of dragons, they kill dragons in Akavir. They hunt them to protect the lineage of kings over there. The probably now extinct lineage of kings. I don't think there's any more humans back in Akavir. We don't really know much about Akavir, but from what we do know, that really doesn't seem like there is anymore. So they're probably all extinct over there, but they used to defend the lineage of kings back in Akavir from dragons, because, I mean, we know that Akavir is the actual land of dragons. It's filled with them, pretty much like Admora once was. Oh boy. So when they came into Tamriel, seeking dragons to kill, they found Remen Cyrodiil. They saw that he shouted at them to defend Tamriel, and they said, holy shit, this guy's a true dragon killer. We're gonna venerate this one, and they stayed in Tamriel to defend him and the lineage of kings in Tamriel from dragons. So he was an actual Dragonborn. Cyrodiil wasn't actually named because of his last name, though. His last name was actually Cyrod, and the Elvish version of Cyrodiil. But he was named so because of the land. The land wasn't named because of him, which is another misconception. We have Wulfharth, who was a Skyrim king who also could use the voice. He was a very, very famous Dragonborn. There's actually a lot of stories with Wulfharth. A lot of crazy-ass stories that make absolutely no sense. And in fact, I think I'm gonna make a little new series here on the channel. Oh, I can level up. About the silliest and most nonsensical stories for the Elder Scrolls, because you guys know how it's very hard to find like the actual lore in the Elder Scrolls, because there's a lot of stories in this game that make absolutely no sense, and we to some degree still have to believe because they come from the same books where we actually know the full lore of the story. So, you know, who's to say, oh yeah, this story is true, this one is not? Like, you kind of have to take either all of them with a grain of salt, or you have to believe all of them. So, it's very difficult. But we'll read some of those crazy stories, and a lot of those crazy stories are linked to Wulfharth, so I will leave those stories for a video at some point. But he was also a Dragonborn, a very powerful Dragonborn. In fact, so powerful that people say that he may have lived and he may have resurrected a couple of times after his multiple deaths, just to just to rule Skyrim again. There's some crazy stories with that guy, man. He's insane. And then of course we have the last Dragonborn, who is our character here. He's known as the last Dragonborn. But there's actually some speculation that Mankar Cameron from Oblivion, the last boss from Oblivion, I guess he wasn't really the last boss, but the guy that summons Molag Bal in Oblivion, the leader of the Mythic Dawn. In the first commentary, the Mythic Dawn commentary, he actually says that after some trials, I don't remember exactly what the book says, but he does explain that he woke up one morning speaking in tongues that he did not recognize and speaking fire. So people speculate that might actually mean that he was Dragonborn, that he found out how to Thum just kind of out of nowhere by reading ancient scripts, which would make sense if you're Dragonborn and you read ancient Dragon. It would just kind of naturally make sense to you if you were Dragonborn, of course. So, you know, that's a little bit of speculation, I suppose. But now going back to the differences between Dragonborn and Dovahkiin, it all comes down to how you actually spell Dovahkiin in Dov Azul. You see, Dov means dragon, A means hunter, and Kiin means born. So in theory, Dovahkiin actually means dragon hunter born, and is a very key difference between Dragonborn. As I said before, Dragonborn would translate into Dovahkiin, Dragonborn, and it comes down to the fact that, you see, and this is probably either a fluke from the developers of Elder Scrolls or intended. I really wouldn't think it was intended, but the problem is that the translations say that both Dov and Dovah means dragon. And the issue with that is that if you were to call someone a dragon hunter, right? Let's say that the Taski from Akavir are dragon hunters, which they are. Or let's even say the Akavir Dragon Guard are dragon hunters, which they are. How would you call them in Dragon Tongue? Like if you were a dragon and you were to find, let me just go ahead and quick save here. This is going to be a very hard battle. But if you were to find a Akavir Dragon Guard and you were a dragon and you would want to name them or call up to them, you would call them Dovahkiin. No, you would call them Dovas, dragon hunters, right? Because Dov means dragon, A means hunter, so you would call them Dovas. But then it would be the same as calling them dragons if the translation of Dovah and Dov and Dovah were the same. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly, but having Dovah mean both dragon and dragon hunter doesn't make any sense. Like, as far as linguistics are concerned, like that's a brain fart of a language if it were to be the case. So I really don't think Dovah means dragon. It just makes no sense to me. That's why I'm of the mind that it's probably just a developer oversight rather than an actual meaning. Which leads me to believe that, you know, there is a very specific difference between Dovahkiin and Dragonborn. I cannot speak while fighting this, guys. I'm sorry. I gotta quickly just deal. It's very difficult because the Necromancer obviously summons a bunch of Draugrs. And then you have to fight the Draugrs and fight a Necromancer at the same time. That thankfully he's not shooting ice at me. As you can see the ice below there. But it's very, very difficult. Should probably focus him up a little bit here. Wow. He also teleports whenever you get close to him and start attacking him, which makes it even harder. It's not an easy quest by any stretch of the imagination. Thankfully, I do have 2 companions, and they give you 1 here for the quest, so you should definitely not kill him at the beginning, Goldier. I would definitely suggest not to. To answer some questions, are there female dragons or Dragonix by Victor Martinez? Victor, there are no female dragons. Actually, there is no concept. Oh, he's an overlord. I am fucked, man. there is no concept of gender to dragons here in the Elder Scrolls. Dragons are neither male or female. I'm almost positive there hasn't been a single instance of a dragon calling himself a male dragon or a female dragon. Definitely not a female dragon. I don't think that's ever been heard of. As the Daedrus once said when they were interviewed for the dragons, for Knowledge of Dragons, dragons have always been and will always be. They don't age, and for all terms and purposes their soul never really ceases to exist. They always kind of stay in this realm of existence, so they are, I guess, for all terms and purposes, immortal. I guess to some extent there would be no reason for their reproduction, if that makes any sense. They don't reproduce. There are no actual confirmed dragon eggs in this world. In fact, there's a couple of books where people say they might have actually found dragon eggs, but after some experimentation, they claim that they were in fact oversized lizard eggs. After all, they were not in fact dragon eggs, which makes it even more obvious and more. I think it proves the fact that there are actually no dragon eggs in this world. Because, you know, one thing would be for them to completely omit the existence of eggs. The other one would be to actually disprove it. To show, oh, maybe there are, and then just disprove it, you know. I think it's a way for the developers to let us know that there are, in fact, no dragon eggs in this world. So at some point, they would definitely go extinct, I suppose.
For your help with vows. Please, take this, and leave me to see to Antagna and my other family members.
This is a bunch of gold, man. Bunch of gold. It's a pretty hard battle. Thankfully, we managed to pull through. But yeah, so going back to Dovahkiin, let me just take a little seconds here to kind of collect all my thoughts here. It's very hard to kind of, you know. But imagine if you were a dragon. Right, this is going back to why I don't think that Dovah is actually a good translation for dragon. Is because, say that you're a dragon and you're asking another dragon to ask, like, hey, are the dragon guards, like, you know, what are they? Like, if they were to say, oh, they're Dovahs, like, what? That could mean that they are either dragon hunters or that they're dragons. Like, that's a big difference. Like, they're literally the opposite things. Like, you have to know whether they're dragons or dragon hunters. I don't know. It's very interesting. Interesting stuff. So, actual Dovahkiins. We know MrRhexx is one. We know that Reman Cyrodiil is one. We know Wolfhearth. We know Tyver Septim, and obviously Oz, the last Dragonborn. And then just Dragonborn, as in just simply blessed by Akatosh, but don't actually possess the power of the Thu'um. They don't actually have the blood of dragons. Then we have Saint Alessia, and we have their entire dynasty, pretty much, of all the emperors and empresses of Cyrodiil. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because there's been some questions on that, and I find that to be very, very interesting, of course. We have another question here by Stijn Brentzen. Hope I pronounced that correctly. He says, I have a question. Where did all of the magic spells come from? Is there some Daedric lord who created magic and make books to learn it to the people of Tamriel? Or did it just exist out of nowhere? Legends say, Stijn, that there's a diamond here, very valuable. Magic came out of Magnus, when Magnus was the architect of the world when the world was being created. And he's considered to be the Ed Ada of magic, as in the creator of magic. There's no actual, like, lore that says, yeah, he created magic, or, you know, no one knew about magic. He's just, you know, the guy that created it. Like, nothing really says that explicitly, like, he created magic. No. But they do say that he's venerated for being, for I guess, letting magic come into the world. And he, I don't know, like, it's one of those things where, like, we just kind of assume, I guess. I think there was an important maze that I missed. Let's go back to where the spider was. Anyways, one of the books of creation that explains the creation of this world, all they say is that the reason that we have magic in this world is because Magnus survived. He wasn't destroyed in the process of creating Nirn, and when he escaped and opened up the hole in the sun, that it pretty much allowed magic to flow into our world in an unlimited fashion. That's really all we get told. But for the most part, it is linked to Magnus. But as far that's really the only thing we have to go for. I think there was a chest hidden somewhere here. I don't know. I guess you guys can tell me in the comments. I think there's like a mace, a really cool mace somewhere here. I wouldn't use that anyways, but just for the sake of curiosity. I don't know. We have another question. I guess I'm gonna go over here. Another question by Blank Flames, he asks. So is it true that giants and orcs are related? To which a couple of comments responded to that, saying Jackson responded, orcs are a mare. Their real name is the Orsimer, and giants are more related to the humans. Then Vullers explained orcs are known as Orsimer, blah blah blah. So yeah, I would say that giants are probably more related to humans than orcs. I mean, there's obviously links. There are reasons to believe otherwise, and I talked about some of those reasons back in, I believe it was the 2nd episode or the 3rd episode.
Yes.
So sad. But yeah, giants come from Admora. Orcs come from the Somerset Isles, so it's like the complete opposite of each other. So it would make more sense for the giants to be human. We know that orcs are elves. That's a factor, as you guys mentioned. Their real name are the Orsimer, and everything that has a suffix of mer I mean, mer means elf in Elvish, so it's kind of a way to tell. But the story goes that the elves, this is like way back in the Merthic era, the elves were growing decadent. They started, like, you know, drinking and abusing magic and pretty much just being, I mean, you guys know the definition of decadent. They were just kind of enjoying life maybe a little bit too much. And Asura actually grew to despise this. She thought that the culture that the elves in the Somerset Isles were developing was harmful to their society, to the race. And because of that, she wanted to take a bunch of elves and create a new society with them. She actually pretended to be Trinimac. We talked about how Trinimac was a legendary warrior. He was the first and main lieutenant of Auriel in the war with the Elnofey and with the war with Lorcan. He was very, very well liked. He was a god to a lot of elves, and what Asura did is she pretended to be Trinimac. She, you know, she's Asura, she's the Daedric god, she has powers like that, so she pretended to be Trinimac. She dressed as him and pretty much transformed herself into him to look like him, and she started to make a speech like, hey, the society is bullshit, let's go and make our own society, and, you know, this is we need to be fighting, we need to be warriors, we need to be more, you know, like more hardcore than this, because all the elves were like bathing in wine and I don't know, whatever it is that they were doing. So she took a bunch of elves to go to Morrowind, and those elves became the Chimmer. So what ended up happening later was Trinimac realized that this was happening, and he went to try and fight Asura to get her elves back, his elves back to Somerset Isles. Asura actually turned Trinimac into Malakath, and that's when Trinimac became the god of the orcs. And everyone that stayed, that didn't want to go with Asura but still believed in Trinimac, you know, Trinimac's army at that point, when they fought, became the orcs. So she turned Trinimac into Malakath, and everyone that was with him at that time into the orcs. So that's pretty much what where the orcs come from, and that's where the Chimmer, the people that eventually turned into the Dark Elves of Morrowind, came from. It's a pretty interesting story. And then every other elf that stayed in the Summerstar Isles in their decadent lifestyle, obviously, are the high elves that we know nowadays. A lot of hidden lore. A lot of this is really just like untold in the stories. It's just all that you find in books, guys. Because you guys have been wondering where I find all this information, man. All this information is in books. If you read all the books in Skyrim and Oblivion, this is where all the stories come from. That and obviously the official guides. There's this nice website. I don't remember the name of it. I think it's the official, the Imperial Library, I think is what it's called, the website, and it's like a compendium of all the books and all the information from the Elder Scrolls. Really, really useful stuff. Should leveled up. We're gonna be fighting a saber-tooth tiger real soon, so I want to save that level up for then. I think there was probably more I wanted to talk about Dragonborns. I don't remember. I always miss like little details about things that I want to talk about. But the biggest thing was really just the differences between Dovahkiin and Dragonborn. The very nuanced and specific differences between the two. Being a Dovahkiin being extremely different from just being a Dragonborn. It's a lot stronger than that. Especially different because Akatosh is considered to be a dragon. He has always been depicted as a dragon. He's the dragon god. He obviously was the father of Alduin and hence the father of all dragons, as a lot of stories kind of put it in. And then you say that Akatosh blesses the Dragonborn. But why would Akatosh, a well-known dragon, create people that are meant to kill dragons? Does Akatosh despises dragons? Does he despises his own kind? Does he hate what dragons have become as human killers? Why is Akatosh siding with the humans against the dragons in a war where, I mean, we know that dragons are his creation. I mean, he is a dragon himself. Why wouldn't he fight for the dragons? He would rather keep the humans alive than the dragons alive. Isn't that curious? My speculation is that the ones that are blessed by Akatosh, the Dragonborn from the Septim dynasty and Saint Alessia and everyone, every emperor from... Ow, that's one hit. Every emperor from the Empire. Those are blessed by Akatosh, but they're not meant to kill dragons. Now the Dovahkiins, us, the last Dragonborn, and MrRhexx and Tiber Septim, I don't think they're blessed by Akatosh at all. I don't think Akatosh has anything to do with Dragonborns. I think that's probably something that gets told in the game that the characters believe, but I don't think it's actually true. I don't think Akatosh goes and creates a dragon killer to kill his own kind. Either that or Alduin is really... Akatosh is really just not a dragon himself. Would be my speculation. But I suppose that's gonna be the end of this episode, boys and girls. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have really been enjoying this, so I'm happy to give you guys some of this live lore, as I like to call it. And here we are. Finally got to Ivarstead. We still have to go back to Whiterun and talk to Balgruuf the Great to finish our actual dragon quest. But I don't think the dragons flying around actually trigger until you finish that quest, until you actually tell Balgruuf that you might be a Dragonborn, because we haven't fought a single dragon.
Settled down to have children.
So that's pretty nice. Actually, wait, scratch that. I think we did find a dragon on our way to... when we were going west to Rorikstead, if I remember correctly. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.